All right, guys, today's going to be fun. I got Sam Wakefield here. He's based out of Round Rock, Round Rock, Texas. He's a sales and business expert. He's the founder of Close It Now, Sales Training and Close It Now podcast. The dynamic founder of Close It Now stands at the forefront of HVAC sales training, known for his high-octane approach and deep industry expertise. A master in transforming the sales landscape, Sam's career is a testament to his innovative strategies and motivational prowess. His popular podcast, Close It Now, mirrors his passion, blending actionable advice to real-world examples that resonate with HVAC professionals. And by the way, HVAC is the godfather of all sales. I believe that. I learned everything I know from HVAC, plumbing, electrical. If you think back in the day, HVAC spells wealth. Ron Smith paved the way for guys like George Brazil and Frank Blau in the late 80s. Who else? Jim. What's another one? Jim. Trying to think of Jim. I never met him, but I'm trying to brain farting his name. But I'll tell you, HVAC is like, if you know HVAC sales, you know how to do chimneys and roofing and landscaping. And I do believe you get good at HVAC sales, you can do anything in life. So, Sam, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, man. It's such an awesome pleasure to be here. I love that you mentioned HVAC Spells Wealth. That was one of my very first books that I ever read in the industry, and it was just incredibly powerful to read through that book and learn that our goal is not to just get customers, to keep them as well. I feel like that's something a lot of people have forgotten nowadays.
Yeah, that's the thing he said is that, I got that in my bathrooms here. Get customers and keep customers. And I put that when I read that book. Get more customers. And the guy I was thinking of was Jim Abraham.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, man. Where did you start? What are you working on? What's new? What's good? What's your passions?
Yeah, so I've been doing this in the trades almost 20 years now. So April is actually the 6th year anniversary for the Close It Now as a sales training company in the podcast. And one of the big things I've been working on, especially this last few months, is really deep diving into the internal workings of really just people. One of the ways that we close the show is, work to become someone worth buying from. And as we go internal, we, really get to up level ourselves first. And as, we put on our own oxygen mask, then we can help everybody else around us. In fact, a podcast I just recorded earlier today for my show was the kind of the sales bearer. What we've really been talking about on our show lately is, when it seems like those objections kind of follow us around, the common denominator could be us. We attract who we are. So if, I want to think about it a lot, or I need 3 bids, it's time for us to examine our own buying habits and realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm attracting this. Do I have these things in my life that's causing that to mirror our clients when we go into our appointments? So that's what I've been working on lately. It's been a thought journey that's a lot of fun.
Dan Martell sat right next to me in this very room and said, when I started buying how I want to be bought from, everything changed. When I was indecisive and I had to make a deal with everybody and make sure I got the deepest discounted price, I was actually saying I'm not worth the full experience. I want you to give me discounted service. And when that all changes, the perspective of your self-worth goes up. And I tell my people all the time during orientation, I just told them today, I'm like, you're going to really understand very soon. Like, here's the thing that people, we've always heard they need to know, like, and trust you, right? People need to know, like, and trust you. The other thing is they need to know, like, and trust the company. And the third thing that everybody fails at is they need to feel loved. So how does a client feel loved? I asked them, well, how do you guys think a client feels loved? Is if you actively listen and you bring up things that they mentioned. Oh, you said you're a kid named Tommy that's 5 years old and he sleeps upstairs, right? You actually care and you're actively listening. You're going, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. When did you know that she was going to be your wife? That's crazy. And I miss being in the garage. And for those in HVAC, on the roofs or whatever, I miss the experience of just the client the intimacy of
Hmm.
just talking to them, learning about them. I was with a World War II vet. He told me his whole story. I canceled my next 2 jobs. This was years and years
Hmm.
back, but enjoying to getting to know the clients. If you don't do that, then you shouldn't be in sales.
100%. Absolutely agree with that. When I'm coaching, I actually had somebody earlier. We were coaching on his, service appointment, and I was like, "Well, how many people live in the house? Well, how many pets do they have? Do you know the pets' names? Do you know the kids' names? Do you remember the wife's name?" Nope, nope, nope. I was like, "Do you see before you even get into the sales appointment? Can you see where we might have a problem? Because no wonder they didn't want to buy from you. Didn't they gave you to think about it because they didn't even know who you were. You didn't know who they were."
Yeah, 100%. And that's the most important thing is you should know exactly what the wife does for a living, the husband does for
Mhm.
a living. You should know exactly where the kids go to school, the pets' names. Another thing I think you should do, and you'll like this one, is really, really, really spend a lot of time building your profile. If you're using software like Service Titan, is send a
Mhm.
great picture. Send your pets. Send your motorcycle and your wife and your kids, and talk about how like you made it through an obstacle. Like training was tough, and when you got trained, and how you fell in love with the industry, and spend time for let the client get to know you, and then offer something on the way. If you just do these little things, you're like,
Mhm.
I told my team, I said, you ever go to those classes? Sam, you probably had a class like this, where the teacher says, I'm giving everybody an A. You just sat down. Your first grade is an A. All you got to do is keep it. Well,
Mhm.
when you set the right profile and you offer the right stuff on the way and you knock the door and you're smiling, you've already got an A. And you're very considerate and you say, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. I appreciate that, sir. Would you like a glass of water? Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And you just show this like you're winning already.
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say I love this so much too. That's funny. That reminded me there. I saw a post earlier in social media. There it was just asking. It was Everett over at his Sales Tales group. He was asking, have you ever received or said yes to anybody offering you something to drink in a home? And of course, my comment was like, man, I couldn't count the number of meals and drinks that I've had with people in their homes. The number of dinners and lunches that they've served when you build a relationship with people over time. It's incredible what happens. And it's not for obviously the free food, but just to be able to break bread with somebody builds a relationship like you really can't otherwise. So it's such a powerful thing when that really starts to happen. That's how you know that you're effectively authentically making relationship instead of just trying to fake it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember people would always ask me to go to church with them, invite me over for Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, very rarely. It's usually the Latter Day Saints invited me to their church. Uh, I'm in Arizona here, especially in the East Valley. But yeah,
Mhm.
no, I miss those days. I really do. I miss getting to know people and hearing their stories, and whether they were talking about George Clooney or, politics or religion or their family or their profession, or their favorite, things to do on the weekend. It didn't matter to me. I just loved listening and learning. Some people had kegerators in their garage, and I'd be like, show me how that works. And it was just
Mhm.
cool, man. And I really do miss it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you get to meet the craziest, coolest people, and and truly, at the end of the day, we're changing lives too, and that's the important part. We literally can change the way somebody exists in their home with any type of home services, whatever we do. It's like they have a struggle, we're able to make their lives easier and better, and it's just so fulfilling.
It is. I'm curious what caused you to start Close It Now and start this HVAC sales training.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tommy. Thanks for that. Actually, so I was sales manager and sales trainer for a company here in Austin, Texas, and we this was 6 years ago, 2019. I sent a couple people off to a sales training. Brought a couple new people into the team, sent them off to a training, and they came back after a week and several $1,000s a piece with the exact same slide deck from a training that I had taken 10 years before that. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, throw that!" They hadn't changed a single slide. I was like, "Throw that in the trash. Nobody buys like that anymore." And so that's what I said, well, I looked around, I couldn't find a training that was the right fit. So I decided to start it. And then the podcast started organically because back in for everybody that listens, Drive Time University, the first probably 30 of my podcasts, I'm literally driving between appointments, recording my podcast in a voice memo because I just had this message to get out. As I knew if my team needed to hear it, that other people did too. And so that's what was the impetus that started the company, because I was like, the way people buying has changed so much, especially the second that the pandemic hit, and everything is so much more feeling and emotion driven. And everybody was stuck in the old days of the ABC model, always be closing, and the hard sell, and everything's logic, logic, logic. And we've forgotten that people buy based on emotion. They justify it with logic, but they're going to justify that logic decision with another emotion. And there, at the time, I didn't find anybody that was training like that. And so I said, well, somebody has to lead the charge, so let's go.
I do see a lot of people teaching the hard close. I do like the idea of like options when selling, and whether it's magic moments and that stuff. I still think all that exists, but like, I never was really a hard close. I just am like,
Yeah.
I just want to do what's right for you, and based on what you told me, I really feel like this is the
Mhm.
decision I'd be doing for this for my mom's house. And I love my mom a lot.
100%.
So, and just slowing
Yeah.
down and listening and just being human with them, and not and telling them, look, I want to be your garage door guy for life. If you're not keeping this house, I want you to come in the next house. Like, look, let's just do what's right for you, because my plan is when you leave here that you tell everybody, your friends, your neighbors, your family, this is the best home service experience you've ever had.
Mhm. 100%.
Make eye contact the whole time, and don't stutter, and don't be afraid of no. Like, just treat them like a human being. And so many people are just
Mhm.
afraid. And I think they're afraid because they don't have any self-esteem. I think a lot of people in the home service industry, they're not happy with their smile. They're not happy with their bodies. They're not happy with their
Mhm.
education. And they know how to make great money in the home service space, but they have to kind of fake it till they make it. They don't get
Yeah.
to be in their true skin.
Oh, that speaks to me so much. One of the things that I love to really emphasize that we talk about very, very often on the show is, and then every time I do, coachings and trainings is, work with that whole the idea of work to be someone worth buying from. We cover, so many different elements of life. If you're not in integrity with yourself, with your own personal growth, with your own spiritual journey, whatever that is, are you in alignment with doing what you should be doing? Your relationships at home, your nutrition, your fitness, all of these micro agreements that we keep with ourselves determine how we show up with our confidence, with our posture, with our certainty. And proof that actually the sales skills is the least important of that. You can take anybody from any industry that's a top performer and pick them up out of that industry and drop them in another one, and then ask them, how long is it going to be till you're on top? And they're like, no, not very long. And they're on top of the leaderboard again, even though knowing nothing about the new industry. But there's someone that people want to do business with because they've just worked to become that level of person. And that's the heart cry of my company, and my passion is helping people up level. I got tired of going to the conferences, and the guys hanging out in the bar after the conference being like, almost like a scorecard, like, how many heart attacks have you had and how many wives have you had? And it just was gross. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. It's time to up level all of the home service industries.
I agree. It's not an easy. Well, I think the industry's getting better now. I think COVID was the best
Mhm.
thing that happened to us, and I think with AI and everything going on, people are like, "Man, go learn a trade." That's kind of
Yeah.
like no AI, no machines, no robots. Like, learn a trade. Uh, it used to be when I was a kid, if you didn't go to college, you were like, you were shunned. It was like, oh, you're an HVAC guy. Ugh. You a
Hey.
garbage guy? You fix garage doors for a living? Now
Mhm.
it's like, what do you do? You got $300,000 worth of debt and you're still living with your mom, and you can't hold a job down
Right.
when look at us guys in the service space.
Yeah, we got paid to learn what we're doing, and now we're continuing. We didn't have this crazy debt from school and all these things. Yeah, it's so much better and different than how it used to be. I agree. I was at that same kind of era where, for so long I was like, man, my wife has a master's degree, and for so long I was like, I just have my associates, and I feel gross telling people what I did until that started to happen. Until I realized that, wait a minute, I make more than the optometrist down the road, and this guy other down the road that has another college degree, and it's like, oh my gosh, wow, wait a minute, let's right size the right frame of mind around this.
What do you think is a good wage to make if you're in a HVAC industry?
It depends on the position, of course, but I mean, if somebody's not making six figures, they're asleep. They're just not in the right position at all. A six-figure take home is kind of the minimum threshold, I would say, for most positions.
Unless you work at a
We're
company that pays hourly and really hasn't figured out to pay people what they're worth.
correct, correct, absolutely. Obviously the startups and things, but any good company that charges the right prices, yeah, it should easily be six figures.
What is the right price for a 5-ton unit?
Well, before I answer that, Tommy, do you mind if I ask you a few more questions to make sure it's the right fit for your home?
I'm gonna tell you, I'd say the minimum is 12 to 20,000. And that
Absolutely.
there's a range there. It depends on where you live and the complications and the insulation and a lot of different things are going to
Mhm.
go into that. What kind of unit you want and what kind of warranty you want with it. But I think some people think that's highway robbery, and I'm like, I sat down with a bunch of garage door owners, Sam. This is 5, 6,
Mhm.
7 years ago now. I don't remember exactly, and they said, "How could I sleep at night for what I was charging?" And I said, "How many of you guys have more than 20 billboards on the road?" When all the plumbers and HVAC guys do. I said, "How many of you
Yeah.
guys have PTO, and for at least a month of PTO? How many of you guys, uh, a normal pay rate for your technician installers is six figures?" But no hands, no hands, no hands. Wait a minute. How many of you guys get brand new vehicles out to every one of your techs and installers? How many of you guys pay for the tools, $6,000 for tools? How many of you guys get minimum of 10 weeks training before they actually practice on a client's house? Wait a minute. There's not been any hands up for this. So wait a minute. You give your clients a really, really good deal so you could F over your employees. So you
Mhm.
hold them down to making nothing but $50,000 a year and make sure they live in an apartment, could drive an old truck, and could barely support their family. So you could give your clients a great deal. I said, I want to be innovative. I want to have trademarks. I want to be able to market. I want to be able to keep the air conditioning cold in the summer in our training center. I want to have new vehicles and I want to take them on vacations and buy them lunch and dinners. Like, do you guys do that stuff? And they're like, Sam, when I left there, and this was at this facility next door upstairs, every single owner said they're going to raise their prices.
I love it.
So I needed to change, and I didn't do this. There was a lot of us that did, a lot of people before me. But we needed to
Mhm.
change the garage door industry in order to build what we built today. Because everybody's like, why do you share all your secrets, Tommy? Why do you invite other garage door companies in and show them what you're doing? I'm like, because our industry has to change. It needs to happen with, like I
Yeah.
said, Frank Blau and Jim Abrams and Ron Smith, the guys that paved the way there. They met up and
Mhm.
they actually didn't hate each other and despise one another. They worked together and they said, hey, listen, you want to start charging fair prices? I'll start charging fair price. It wasn't like a monopoly that they just decided like
Right.
collusion. It's just like let's make sure we can pay our people more and give them better
Yeah,
trucks.
let's raise the standard.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of people listening right now that maybe, just maybe, if you're the elite, but everybody's complaining to you that you're the too high a price, invite them in and show them why. And hopefully, you don't have a Bentley and live in a mega mansion, because look, if you had an exit and you did great, look, I never really took a whole lot of draws. I put it all back in, and 25 people had an equity stake in the company that I actually
Mhm.
earned it, but it was given. So, I think it's okay for people to have an exit and make a lot of money. I think that should be the goal for every company. But in the process, your people make a lot of money, right?
Absolutely. I actually had the privilege a few years back of seeing Sir Richard Branson at an event, and it was incredible to listen to him. Of course, I mean, it's Sir Richard Branson for one, but his every answer in a 30-minute spot in every single question, it didn't matter what the question was to some degree. He always turned it back around to how well you take care of your people is how well they're going to take care of the client for you. And it was the coolest thing to really hear someone at that level just really talk about how he poured, and it was story after story of how he's poured into his own people for that very reason. He's like, if you take care of the internal customers first, they will always take care of the rest. And it was definitely a privilege to hear that, but it just carries through.
That is like, first you gotta get the people like, what I'm realizing, if you get the right competitive people that love to win and actually are a
Mhm.
little humble, hungry, and smart, right? And then you constantly remind them about their goals, their whys, their commitment, and they discuss it with their family, the important people, whether that's their mom, their wife, or their kids, and they're constantly brought up instead of brought down, and I'm gonna call people up instead of calling them out. If that's
Mhm.
done properly, they're gonna go to war for you. You know how many
Yeah.
people, and I'm just gonna tell you this because we just got back from our Pinnacle trip, the top 5% of the company is either their wife or they came up to me and said, "If you ever go anywhere other than A1, I mean, I'm the founder of this company, but we're going with you. Like, we're gonna follow you
Right.
to the pits of hell, basically." And I'm like, "Well, you're stuck with me here for a long time." Um, I I got a question. So you chose to be a coach, um, and I got to tell you something. Um, I've always wondered. I still am involved in my business. I love doing podcasting. I use this to learn. I've got some coaching we do. I've got Garage Door Freedom and Home Service Freedom, but I don't take any money from that. I think I've seen the people that try to make it as a coach, and man, it is so hard, man. I can only imagine you got to have events and podcasts and email blasts, and then there's people that just don't take the training seriously, and if you don't charge them enough, but then they won't sign up if you. And it takes a decade. And I worked with Al Levy, and I've paid more coaches than I know what to do with, and I love the coaches I've hired. But
Mhm.
then you look at it, and you can start a small business, and it's fairly easy if you understand the marketing side and you're good at sales. So what made you, because it's gonna get hard. That's not gonna be easy. I think you're starting to realize. I don't know how long you've been
Yeah.
doing this, but it's not everybody's like, they come up to me, some of my top guys are like, "What do you think if I start my podcast and become a coach?" And I'm like, "I love that. Listen, but why not become an internal coach and I'll pay you a ton of
Mhm.
money?" Like like they're like, "What if I just," they kinda wanna get the fame or something. And I'm like, "Man,
Sure.
I've been doing podcasting for 8 years." And, I've been doing a lot of different programs for different people, and I still haven't taken a paycheck out of that stuff. So be prepared to put 10 years in before there's real money. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's funny, every single one of the things that you mentioned happened to me today. So I made a podcast. I was a guest on a podcast. I had that client that's not doing anything. I mean, every single thing, it's like literally happened today. So I 100% know what you're talking about. But yeah, what drives me forward is really that the ability to change lives on a grander scale. I could step out in the field and, just be a top performer somewhere, and that's good, but the leverage point of being able to really dramatically impact lives really can only get that way through leverage. Through, had a book this last year hit some cool bestseller list. I've got actually one that I co-authored. I've got one coming out this next year. I'm going to be speaking at a few events, and the number of people that come up to me that truly have had that magical experience of like, holy cow, either through a podcast, it changed the way that I sell and everything's changed, or you said something in your talk that just hit me to my core and I'm going to go back and immediately implement. That's the reason that I do it. Now, you're right. It is not the most lucrative especially at the beginning. But it's okay because, when you're in flow and you're doing what you're absolutely called to do, it's they say that when you find what you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. I actually think that's wrong. I think you work harder than you ever have because now you're internally inspired instead of just being externally motivated. And when that inspiration wakes you up before your alarm goes off, just because you can't wait to get to the day, I mean that's the big difference there. Um, and yeah, it's it's the game changer that the intention that keeps things moving forward is what it's all about.
Well, you found a passion, and it seems like you're motivated by the passion, and I agree that once you find a passion, although I used to tell people I love golfing, but I'm like, Tiger Woods still has to hit 1,000 balls a day, even
Mhm.
though I know for a fact he doesn't want to. And Kobe used to practice, and Jordan, and it goes on and on. But when you find out what you love, like I did my orientation today, I just said, guys, don't take this the wrong way, but I could retire 10 times over again. I'm here because I choose to be here. And they said, well, what's the point? And I said, to change your lives. And I said, when
Mhm.
you find out my true legacy, and legacy is a pretty common word these days, but my legacy is going to be that, I hopefully, if you guys stay on board for a couple of years, that your life's changed in a positive direction. And I got
Mhm.
a lot of work to do, and I'm a work in progress. And I can't promise you I'm going to make all your dreams come true, but I'm going to try. As a sales coach, what are some of the common pitfalls that you see HVAC and other sales professionals fall into?
Oh, geez. One of the big ones is everything's out of order in a lot of their process. The company itself usually builds out of order. So what I mean by that is they'll put, they'll buy their phone system and they'll buy their, service titan or home service X, whatever their operating system is, and they'll
CRM,
put
yeah.
all of these things in place. Yeah, they got their CRM, they got all the different stuff, right? They've got their marketing and all the rest, and then they come to me and they're like, "Man, all right, sales is the last piece. We've got to get the sales piece plugged in." And I'm like, "Guys, you built backwards because now you're at a place where you have all of this overhead. But you have all these leads coming in because you invested in all this other stuff, but nobody knows how to convert anything, and you're about to go broke. So now you're sending up this Hail Mary to me to come in and save the day and turn everything around. It's like let's build sales in a lot earlier in the process, because then you can have better conversion, you can have better margins, and you'll have the funds to be able to invest in the growth of the organization." So that's one of the things that I typically see is they're waiting way too late in the steps to, and of course, the perfect time to do it, if you didn't plant a tree 20 years ago, the next second best time is now. But starting earlier in the process to learn how to sell stuff is paramount. But classic Brian Tracy, nothing happens till something gets sold, and that's very true. So we have to have and be priced right from the beginning. And that's the other side of it is everybody starts and think, well, if I just am a little bit less, then I can, I'll win all these deals from stealing from everybody else. But then there's nothing left to be able to reinvest in. And so that's like getting priced from the beginning. You can pay better people will stick around. All of the things starts to happen when we can sell better and higher from the beginning.
No one believes in the price if they don't spend any money. You have an event,
Exactly.
I guarantee you, you give out 1,000 free tickets, you'll have 80 show up. You
Hmm.
make sure they pay $5,000 a ticket, you'll get, if you sell 199 will show up, one person will have, a kid get sick. Something really will happen to somebody. But there's
Absolutely.
actually money
Hmm.
behind there's intent behind it. I mean,
Hmm.
Alex Hormozy talks about it 100 million offers. I talk about this all the time, but like charge a higher price as you could. Alan Rohr talks about it too. Is
Hmm.
like, let's freaking charge as much as we possibly can. And people think that's like immoral. And I'm like,
Hmm.
wait a minute. The same people that say it's immoral are wearing Gucci's and wearing $400 shoes and $300 belt, and they bought a 200 bottle of cologne, and they're wearing a necklace that costs $1,000. I'm like,
Right.
look at you see these. I got 3 plastic bracelets, rubber bracelets on my like. Look, I'm wearing like this shirt. Like, it's so funny how the people that talk about prices have the nicest like clothes, they drive the nicest car, but they still live in an apartment.
Hmm.
You know, I
Yep, they're
never
just
want to hear
they're just
anybody.
fronting.
What's that?
They're just fronting it. They're not authentic in what they're doing, and you can instantly tell.
I have a price for everybody because I have options. And if I my take for instance, there's a 10,000 cycle price. The door goes up and down. That's one cycle. We carry a
Mhm,
25,000 cycle price. We carry an 80,000 cycle spring. So 80,000 cycle. Let's just say the normal guy charges 350 for a spring. No, 400 for the even numbers. Mine is 8 times that. So that means I should probably charge 3,200. I'm charging a third of that for 8x the life. So you're
Mhm.
getting a bargain. And I don't think people understand this. I tell my clients, listen, you remember those Maytags from the 80s and the 70s, the washers and dryers? They're usually yellow or white and they're still going today. Like those
Mhm.
Maytags last forever. They'll keep
Let run
going.
forever.
And when I started this business, I decided, why don't parts come like that anymore? So we engineered Max Life Springs. We've got our own trademark. We've got rollers. We've got a lot of the parts. And people are like, oh, that's overkill. I'm like, but I've never seen one break.
Right?
You know what I mean? It's like,
And people are buying peace of mind with it.
and I say, here's the deal, guys. I told all my team today, do not join any garage door groups. It's only losers that hang out there. They like to fix everything. They don't like to ever offer anything new. They'd rather fix
Mhm.
it all for nothing. And I'll fix stuff. But at the end of the day, if I got to fix it 3 times and kick the can down the road, your garage door is 40% of your curb appeal, the smile of your home. Like designers and architects, they request certain garage doors. It's not just a plain Jane. It dresses up your home.
Mhm.
So did you want this not insulated? Did you want me to fix this? Or have you ever thought about like putting something on here that's going to actually, it's 194% return on investment, meaning
Mhm.
you put a buck in, you take a buck 94 out. Like that's a no brainer.
Right.
This is not insulated, no U factor, no R value. Like it's just, it's oxidized. The bottom rubber shot, it's dented. You want me to fix this? Or did you ever think maybe we replace it?
I think that to me, that is the best version of service, to give them the option to improve their life. It's not up to us to spend their money for them. Our price is our price. It's something that I talk about often is we completely divorce ourselves from the number. When we're in the house, we're there to serve, we're there to care with compassion, with empathy and integrity and ethics. And you know, the price is the price. Two things determine the price. One is the size and condition of the home, and they decided that when they bought the house. And the second is what they want to include in the project. If the price is too high, then we'll pick something else. We don't need to discount it. But at the end of the day, the price happens to just come along with the things that they choose to serve them the best way possible.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. And you made an investment into your home, and most people have a mortgage. Why wouldn't you want to protect your mortgage in this home by investing in it with the nicest,
Yeah.
best things? And I just think if most people's best investment is usually their home. At least you want to protect your investment.
Hmm.
Um,
100%. Love it.
what's one piece of advice you wish someone would have told you when you first started out?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think that the biggest one that I could, especially especially all the new people in sales or even technicians, it doesn't matter your role. And if you're in home services, I think the biggest piece of advice there are two pieces that kind of tie together. One is ask more questions. Nobody asks enough questions. And then the second piece, which goes with that, is take more time than you've ever taken before in an appointment. So slow the heck down. Ask more questions and slow down. Those are the two things I think that everyone can immediately apply and totally change the outcome.
I really, I agree with both of those wholeheartedly. I'd add a third one is practice smiling more. And when you
Mhm.
talk, look into their pupils. But the more you smile and you mean to smile and you're having
Mhm.
fun, like one day, my lead trainer at the time, she goes, we had a guy in there from Albuquerque getting a kind of a retraining. And she goes, you're not having any fun. You look like you got a stick in your ass. Like, smile more and have fun. Like, dude, this job's fun. Like, talk to customers, get to know them.
Yeah.
And he came back a month later and his sales had quadrupled because he started smiling. And
Uh-huh.
you're sitting there. People love when you smile. Like if you looked at a baby, 6 months old, and you had somebody just constantly stare at them, no smile, no frown, and then everyone else, the other person smiling, the baby's gonna love the smile. They're gonna laugh. They're gonna giggle. They're gonna appreciate it. They're gonna be excited to see them. And obviously, tonality matters. And when you smile, your tone changes. So, yes,
Mhm.
slow down. I
Mhm.
mean, I tell my guys, the top guys in the company like to run 1 to 2 jobs a day. That's all they need.
Yeah.
And they do very, very well. They don't need to run 4
Mhm.
or 5 jobs.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I
They're
bought.
spending enough time to ask the questions and truly listen to what those people, like, need and want. Offer things that could improve their life.
Yeah, so I always say, some people say they only sell things people need. I'm like, I never sell things people need. I don't need a new phone.
Yeah,
I'm buying a new phone later today because I want
yeah,
one. I didn't need a second car, a DeLorean, or a house as big as my size. I didn't need, you know, anything. I didn't need the tankless hot water heater. I'm glad they offered it to me. You know what I mean? I didn't need
mhm,
anything. Like all I need is water. I don't. When losers say this line, I only sell things people need. Like,
mhm.
what do you mean? I'm glad you don't work at Nordstrom's because
Yeah,
people,
no kidding.
what do you mean you only sell things people need? I always give options and say, look, I'm going to give you the options. You pick what you'd like, but I want to give you
Absolutely.
everything you might ever want, anything of your heart's desire.
Mhm.
You know,
I found out a long time ago, people will pay more for what they want than what they need. If everybody just had what they need, everybody'd drive a Prius and, live in a small, tiny small house, but they don't and never will, for this very same reason.
it's 100%. I mean, we got to take this idea of sales that we're salesmen to out of like because most people feel like sales are a bad thing. It's a used car sales. It's a dirty tactic. Well, sales is a good thing. The priest and your pastor are in sales. Like when you're in sales, when you talk to your kids about going to bed on time and making their bed. So sales. Well, a lot of people. Why do you think people think sales is so evil?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's historical, and at the same so it depends on the historical part of it, um, except for, go back 30, 40 years, and the most trusted person in town was the trades guy. "Hey, my heater's out. Alright, put on another pot of coffee. I'll be right over." But the last probably especially, 2, 3 decades, so many bad apples have ruined sales for a lot of people. All the You look at all the exposés on TV about, these different companies taking advantage of homeowners and all these things, and it's just put such a bad taste in people's mouths that, I mean, that's a huge part of it. And then, of course, we're working so diligently, people like yourself and the rest of us that are working to bring trust back to the trades. Be that person of integrity, have the code of ethics, the things that we refuse to compromise on for, just for profit. It doesn't mean we can't charge what we earn, but we're not going to compromise morals and ethics for it. And I think that's a big part of what has caused the bad sentiment about sales and salespeople.
I'll tell you something that I've not told and this was recent. I've never said this story yet. My mom asked me, she said, I need my HVAC coils and heater cleaned. And she asked me a company, and I told her the most expensive company I know. I said, don't let them sell you a new unit, though.
Mhm,
But I said, I know some guys that'll go out there for 50 bucks, literally.
mhm,
Like, I know them and I know people that I could call that'll do it for free because it's my mom. And I didn't even call this company and ask for a deal or anything. Like I didn't
mhm,
I just said, "Here, call this guy." And I just forwarded the number. And I want to explain something very interesting about this because I know they'll be there when they say. I know they're drug tested and background checked. I know they'll fix it right if something goes wrong. I know that my mom does not need that air conditioning going out in the middle of a 122-degree day. So
right,
therefore, these other guys, sometimes a week out before they can get there, they'll stop by, they'll band-aid it, it'll break again. So once again, we go back to buying like we want to be bought from. And I think most of the people that don't understand this, they're selling out of their own pocket and they don't own a house yet.
mhm,
And they might not even care that much because they're like, you know what? Who cares if we got to sit a day without a garage? Because I just want it cheap. And then they get the cheap stuff and then they complain when it breaks in a year. It's just
mhm,
amazing how that works. You know why I'm so proud is because so many people listen to this podcast. They call us up. They never contact me. They don't ask for a discount. They get it done right, and I don't hear from them for a decade. I mean, of course, I
right,
see them at shows and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, I wanted to show you this picture of your guy. He's amazing. I
mhm.
had him at my house 6 months ago." And I'm like, that's freaking awesome because did we take care of you? And 99.9% of the time, they're like, it was the best experience I've ever had.
Mhm.
And I think that that's important.
It's crucial. It's so interesting in the trades, especially. The standard is because it's so easy for people to start a company in home services and in the trades. That also means that the standard is really low. So it's not incredibly hard to be exceptional, but it is difficult to stay there consistently day after day. And that's the big differentiator, I think, is the consistency of training our people. And to your point, I've heard you say this before. Of course, read Elevate, and the one of the biggest missing pieces in home services and in the trades is training, the internal training of our people.
Yeah.
Because we'll bring them in and just, okay, fly little birds, here's your 2-hour session, and we're not inspecting what we expect for them to provide that Chick-fil-A A1 garage door level service every single time.
Well, it's every day, and one person that I continue to learn from every time I talk to him is Leland Smith out of Southern California with
Hmm.
Service Champions. Is he's like every day we train for 2 hours a morning. Our guys would role
Hmm.
play before they'd go out. That was a must. Like we'd initially like intentionally not schedule our first job till 9 so they could come in from 7 to 9 and role play with
Hmm.
each other. We'd have a top couple guys with a couple not so top guys,
Yeah.
and they get better and better and better and better
Hmm.
and better.
Yeah, I'll say this is interesting that we're talking about this. I was talking to Doug Wyatt. I don't know if you know who that is. The other day,
Yeah.
with Synergy Learning Systems, and we were having this conversation. We were talking about other industries outside the trades, industries that are sales driven industries. Literally any other industry that sales is first. When we're because him and I, we both done some trainings outside of our home services, and the second you step into any other industry that is sales driven, we were like, okay, well, when y'all have your weekly meeting, and they're like, what do you mean weekly meeting? Like, well, yeah, your weekly sales meeting. They're like, we do sales every day. What are you talking about? It's just the standard is we sharpen our axe every single day when you're a sales driven organization. And then we step into the trades, and it's a really unusual thing to train every day. And it's like, wait a minute, where's the disconnect? It's like we've forgotten that, or never even learned that in order to be that expert, a home service expert, just like the show's name, in order to be that expert, we have to constantly be sharpening the axe. It's like Zig Ziglar used to say about personal growth. You have to, it's something you have to do daily. You can't do it on Sunday and expect it to last all week.
I love this. You reminded me of some stuff right now. I think it's. I used to be a busboy and a server and a bartender, and when I was a server, they'd have the AM and PM, right? Shifts.
Hmm.
We'd have a 15-minute meeting just to make sure we knew the specials and offered this wine with the certain entrees, and we knew the soup de jour, soup whatever soup. Like
Yeah.
that's was serving tables at a freaking restaurant, but yet in home service where, oh no, none of the guys want to meet up every day. I don't care what they want. Their paychecks and their wives want them to get better at their profession. And it's not only about sales, but some people, some of it's operational, some of it's technical. It's training to be well-rounded. Some of it's safety training and making sure you're wearing the right uniforms and making sure you got steel-toed boots and you're wearing gloves to protect your phalanges. Like, I don't want to make this only about
Hmm.
sales because it's all the above, but sales is the one thing that's the hardest, that's continuous improvement.
Right. And I'll agree with you 100% too. I mean, we've got to be constantly working on all of the things to make that well-rounded, well-rounded person. I have the similar background in restaurants. Every time we'd start the shift, they'd had the kitchen make up the specials for that, so I could even try them to be able to describe them more accurately. It's like, when's the last time we did that with with what we do? Everybody says, well, do you have one of these in your own home? Well, no wonder you're not selling it. You didn't even put it in your own house.
Oh my gosh. I just talked about this. Put one in your own house. Um, I said, everybody that made our Pinnacle trip, every single one of them have a door from us, and it's
Hmm.
a really nice door, and they show pictures. Here's what I got. Yeah, this is what I
Sure.
believe in, and I'm getting ready to replace my mom's door, and we're video. It's going to become a commercial. We'll say,
Love it.
look, my mom's door, 5 years old, still not good enough for me. It's a
Hmm.
builder's grade. I am going to make this stuff happen. These are good notes. So tell me a little bit about NLP and why it works so well for sales.
It's funny, if anybody wants to learn about NLP, that's a great place to start. But NLP is the fancy way of saying brain science. I like to break it down like that. But it's one of the there's several different things involved with it. Mainly, it's understanding how brains work, the psychology of how people make decisions, and then understanding if we can get the keys in the right order to unlock those. It's like almost like a padlock or something that has several places in their brain. As long as we get them in the right order and we understand those dynamics, then people will. In fact, it's really cool what happens. They start asking for the business versus us feeling like we're always pushing it on them. So some of the keys, of course, are, especially in our current society, is the power of the permission question. Asking permission for everything is crucial in the process. And so after that, some of the other things are just word substitutions that make the biggest difference. The biggest one, the most famous one that I talk about is the difference in interested versus open. Right. So, in fact, you want to role play with me real quick, Tommy,
Yeah, let's do
and
it.
give an example for everybody. So,
Absolutely.
for everybody listening, this is the one. This is one thing I did this on the Waste No Day podcast on Wiser Wednesday when I was on there. Shout out to Brian and Nate. So, interested versus open. This is really interesting. It's very interesting. The reason it's interesting is no one wants to be perceived as closed-minded. The other side of that is everyone wants to be perceived as open-minded. The other part of this, when it comes to interested, no one can be interested for anything that they don't know anything about. So until there's a level of education, no one will answer, yes, I'm interested. So what we're going to do is we're going to take something super easy, super basic, and let's say garage doors, because that's what you do. And so you be my homeowner, and we're going to take the two super quick passes through this. One is ask me, hey, my garage door's kind of, just basic question. My garage door's kind of broken. Do you guys have any options to upgrade the door? So I'll answer how a lot of people traditionally answer a direct question like that, and then we'll time out. We'll go through it again, and we'll talk about the difference with using interested versus open,
Okay.
and then
So
permission question with that. So go ahead.
the garage door seems like it's having a few issues. It's shaky. It's noisy. Was wondering if you guys have any options to replace this thing.
Oh yeah, man, we got some options. We've got the basic door, which is just your single. It's not insulated. The single ply there. We've got the upgraded door from that, which is going to be insulated. Then we've got, and so I'm going to time out already because what happened? Nothing. Nothing really happened there. You stayed frozen, and you're just kind of staring at me like, what the heck is this guy talking about? So let's do it again real quick. And I'm going to use open and also the permission question. And so you'll see how that works. And I want you to feel the difference.
Yeah, so I got this noisy garage door. It's giving me a lot of issues. It has problems going up and down. Do you guys have any options for a replacement?
Oh, absolutely, man. We've got some great options. Would you like to hear what they are?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome. So before we get into that, one, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? And then, if I can show you a way where, it could improve the value of your home and basically show you how it would cost zero to actually do this door in the long run, would you be open to some more information?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, great. So feel the difference. So for everybody that's not watching, what you didn't see is the first time through, Tommy didn't even flinch. No move, no nothing. The second time through, you couldn't even help it. And this is role play. Physiology changed. You leaned in a little bit. You started smiling. You started nodding strictly with the permission question. And now we're open to the information. And so it makes a massive shift in how people receive information. And that's just kind of a tiny example of how NLP works or brain science works in cells.
What do you think your favorite part of the sales process is? Is it the initial contact, the follow up, or maybe the sweet moment of closing the deal?
I'm gonna answer that different. My favorite part of that is the follow up. Most people hate follow up, but it's so fun and it's so easy because we already did the work. And I know that nobody else ever follows up hardly. And when I follow up, I get business because nobody else is calling them back. And so it's conversations. They every single time you get on the phone with somebody you already did a project with or already did an appointment with, they're like, "Oh yeah, hey, how's it going? I remember." And so my favorite's follow up.
I love the follow up, brother. Um, th- th- we use Chirp so
Hmm.
effectively, and everybody's asking me, "Can I see your campaigns? Can I see your campaigns?" I'm like, "Look, because I know the guys so well at Chirp. Everybody thinks the secret is I do have great campaigns and I make great videos and there's selfies. And I'm like, hey, Tommy here, the founder of Day One Garage Door Service. Just want to let you know you got some options here. If you wanted to do something a little bit different, I got these doors that are sitting here that kind of fit what you're looking for. And I get them at a better value if you want to discuss those options. But I make videos and I test different things, but the real deal is we respond in real time. So if we send you a message via text, we need to respond when you say, "Hey, yeah, I'd like to follow up with you." And like half the battle of studying what the best of the best at Chirp do is it's just they follow up at every client and then they make sure they get back to them right away on
Hmm.
their time, not my time. You see, it's the
Yeah,
client's time that I care about. It didn't break when it was convenient for them, and it's never going to be convenient in home service. So if they say, "Yeah, can you get back to me tonight around 8 p.m.?" I don't think anybody's wife would matter to close a $10,000 door sale if they said, "Hey, I'll give you 15 minutes." Like, and the best of the best in
absolutely.
my company, they're so good. They're relentless
Hmm.
at the follow up.
Hmm. Yeah, I 100% see the same thing. Of course, I train a lot of different language, and there's all the different trainers have language around follow up, and everybody wonders, well, what do I say? Well, the reason that we teach language around follow up is not for the client necessarily. It's for the person, the salesperson, to get them to actually do it. If we give them empowering language that feels so it makes them feel more confident to do follow up instead of begging, like, oh, I'm just touching base, circling back, all those things, well, they feel more empowered to actually do it. But at the end of the day, statistically, the customer does not care. They expect 5 to 7 follow-ups every single appointment, and they expect 2 to 3 of those to be a legitimate phone call, not just an email or text. And that's statistics. Every single time follow-up is studied in our society. And so the fact that we do it and stay in touch doesn't matter what you say, just pick up the phone and call the people, text them. And if they don't answer, text. If they don't answer, double dial, double tap. If they then text, then email all at the same time, but just reach out and get in touch with people. You will close business. I had one of my guy that listens to my podcast. He's a big time fan. Every single January, he spends the first week of January literally calling every single unclosed appointment from the previous year. This year, first week of January, he closed $200,000 in business strictly by calling back through last year's. No new appointments, just talking to people. Hey, how's it going? Where are you in your decision process? That's it. That's all they had to do is just call back.
Yeah, like look, listen. I want to be your garage door provider for life. And I want to figure out what this is going to take. And I want to make sure you feel good about us and we feel like we give you a good shake. If it's the money, we've got different options. If it's the timing, let me know. Uh, but we want to be your company. And I got to say,
Hmm.
I'm asking you for your business. I really am. I really want to know. And look, if you need me to bring your wife flowers and give you tickets to the Lions game, I'll do it because that's how much we want your business. Like, just show that you want it. So many people are like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I was just calling to see if you made a decision yet." It's like, oh my gosh, dude. You like,
Hmm.
and this is not even hard training. This is just common sense.
Right? Yeah. It's really funny because this is like it seems to us because we're so experienced with it. It's like, man, this is entry level, but so many people don't do it, and I don't understand why. Because they're literally sitting on millions of dollars of business, and they're just not picking up the phone and calling them. So for everybody listening, pick up the phone. It's a gold mine, and if you don't, we will. We'll follow up behind you and we'll close your business because that's what happens. You've educated them. Somebody else comes in and then has the intentional conversation and closes it. You could have closed it, but you didn't. so you set it up for somebody else, and that's what happens so many times.
You know how many times I hear, "You're the only one that got back to me, so we're definitely gonna be doing business with you." And I don't know,
I
like, you hear some
Mhm,
people say, "I gotta talk to 3 people." That's not real. I've had so many people say,
mhm,
"Before you get started, I wanna talk with 3 people." When I get done and we're laughing and I blow their mind and I educate them on a HS and the home service, expert page on Facebook, I copied this and it said this guy said, "There's a conversation." I just started reading through it. There's so many posts in there. And this guy said, "I got 3 different window quotes, and on the 3rd one, the guy brought in all the samples. He educated me about this and the rebates and the energy efficiency and just showed me everything to feel like I actually understood windows now." And that's why I chose
mhm,
that company because they educated me. And if you spend the
mhm.
time to educate clients and give them options and just tell them what you would do based on their situation and say, "There's no wrong answer here. Listen, I wanna do what's good for you." You're
Mhm.
gonna win the business a lot of the time, but they need to like you, feel liked, and they need to like the company. That's it.
Absolutely. So powerful.
What do you think what do you think you could do to spot the buying signals in a sale? Because I think some people talk past the buying signals of, like, they burn the sale, you know?
Oh my gosh, this is a big one. You're touching on one of my hot buttons right now, especially. In fact, I'm working on some things that is about to completely change the way that a lot of things are done when it comes to this topic. But the buying signals are smaller than most people think. In fact, the things that you truly are looking for, they come earlier in the conversation. So both buying signals and signals that something went sideways. So a lot of times they happen way earlier than we, expect the big, "Ooh, hey, that's exciting." We're not looking for we don't want it to look like they just got dealt a pair of pocket aces and they're playing poker, and can't hide a bluff. If that's the first place that we recognize a buying signal, we haven't been paying attention. So it's further than that. It's a lot more subtle than that. So usually buying signals happen early in the appointment. The way the I mean the my system, the way I train it, by the time we're done with our introductions, company intro, personal intro, and setting the agenda, they're sold. The buying signals start happening there. And then as we go through, it just reinforces it. In fact, I would be willing to wager that if we set it up right, not just the bio and the picture that we send ahead of time with Service Titan, there's something else that I train is actually sending an on the way video, which is, hey, I'm excited for our appointment. Be there, right at our scheduled time. If you would take a minute and clear out anything that might be in the way where we're going to be working. Appreciate that. That way we can focus on what's important to you. The fact that we now have a video there also ahead of time, that warms that client up because something called the living room effect. And then once we step foot on the premises, now they're already warmed up that intros and agenda, man, they're ready to buy if you've made a great first impression. So just
Yep.
like it really reinforces like what you were saying, we start off with the A if we've made that great first impression, and then people will talk themselves out of it because they think they need to over explain things or need to dive in technical way more than people need or want. And so that's where the confused mind says no, but they start off with the yes.
I love this. I can talk to you all day about sales, man. I'm sure we're gonna get up here eventually. So if people wanna reach out to you, Sam, what's the best way to do that?
So where you can get in touch with me is, of course, closeitnow.net. That's the website. Email me directly, sam@closeitnow.net. Of course, the big Facebook group you can join as well. And yeah, that's the big thing. And then this end of last year, I co-authored a book that hit international bestseller list, and so that was really exciting. So be on the lookout for at least one or two books coming out this year. I've got a co-author book that's under the radar. I'm working on. I actually have a patent I'm working on for the sales process, and then also we've got my book will be coming out this next year as well. So lots going on.
Cool. I'm writing a new book. Um, I'm actually I bought a lot of books this week to help me with my book. I've got the core of it, but it's called Pay Them What They're Worth. And it
Oh,
talks a
nice.
lot about just ways to reward employees and get them on page and make sure they're getting,
Mhm.
they got a stake in the outcome. So we talked about a lot of stuff, Sam. I want to give you just a few minutes to close us out on anything that you feel like the audience needs to hear.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And first, I appreciate you having me on the show. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I always enjoy chopping it up with you every chance we get. Our episodes, I feel like, never end up kind of the same as a lot of other people's
yeah.
because we're all over the map. But yeah, the one thing I could really emphasize to everybody is, when we're working with homeowners, when we're working with the sales, not to forget that, in whatever line of home services we're in, we're there to serve. It is home services for a reason. So show up with heart. Show up truly in your best version of yourself. What I say is, I'm not asking anybody to be somebody they're not, but I'm asking you to show up and be the very best version of yourself as possible. And then along with that, the kind of technical thing to remember is remember what the homeowner's problem is. Too many people try to sell to the house. The house doesn't write the check. Just because you found all of these code faults and all of these things that are quote unquote wrong with the install or wrong with the house, it doesn't mean anything unless the people in the house see a problem with it. And what is their problem? So figure out what their problem is first. What are your concerns? All of these things. How can we improve your life? And then it's our job as professionals to connect the dots between what their problem is and the things that we do and show them how this will solve their problem. And the second that we get those things clear and understand that the fault we found is not the problem, it's causing their problem, that's where the magic starts to happen, because then we start to speak in their terms of, hey, this is the benefit to you, can you see how this will change in your life? And that's really where so much of that conversation moves forward, because now we're there to serve, and they feel it because we truly care about making their life better with no attachment to the dollars on the back end, because knowing that, just like Zig Ziglar always said, if we take care of enough people, then if we help other people get anything they want, then we can have anything we want. And so the money will come, but it's not what it's about. It's about helping people truly with the heart and compassion from the beginning.
I love it, Sam. This was a great podcast. And when you said we go all over the place, if you listen to Joe Rogan talk for 3 hours in his podcast, you want to talk about all over the place. So I just like to sit back and have fun. And I don't like to do
Yeah.
too much formatting and question perfect. And you're gonna know. I don't care if people know exactly what they're gonna get, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be informative, and it's gonna be hopefully useful. Something they could get started with today. So I
Oh,
appreciate you
100%.
being on here, Sam, and look forward to seeing you here soon.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for
Great
the honor.
work. All right, my brother.